Welcome to the Herdify Masterclass on generating offline word of mouth. Right now, we are living in a very noisy world, so offline word of mouth is a great opportunity to cut through the noise. In the next 4 minutes, we are going to cover why offline word of mouth should be part of your marketing mix, why it's more important than just a referral program, 4 steps to generate offline word of mouth. As you go through, if you've got any questions, comments, or observations, we'd love to hear from you. So, hit us up on Twitter. So when we talk about why it should be included, the first thing we need to look at really is take a step back and look at how human beings are influenced, because ultimately we're trying to influence people to take an action. And it turns out that, most human beings are herd animals, right? We follow those around us. So cold advertising is really hard and really expensive to get working. So if we then look at how people where people get their recommendations from, we need to look at where the conversations happen. And 30% of the conversations happen online, which means actually the vast majority of conversations still happen online. And this was a data set taken from 2021. So even the pandemic, most conversations are still happening offline, where they can't be seen, they can't be measured. Now, the interesting thing here is most budget is still spent in either cold advertising or some form of sort of online listening or online targeted ads. The opportunity here is most of your competition are not doing it, so there's a great opportunity for you to kind of take advantage of this untapped area. So when we talk about word of mouth, a lot of people often turn around and say, well, we've got a referral program. And the best story I kind of hear about referral programs is there's a chap that owned a pizza shop, and he wanted to get more and more customers through the door, so he hired a couple of students to go and hand out coupon books. One student was back within 5 minutes with an empty coupon book. The other one came back a few hours later. The owner was obviously amazed at the first and said, well, how did you do that? That's amazing. And he said, oh, I simply went down the line outside the store and handed out coupons. In effect, he's giving out coupons to people who were going to pay full price anyway. And really, we want to make sure that when we're trying to drive word of mouth, we're not giving discounts to people who've already had something referred to them and were willing to pay full price anyway. And that's why we said there's much more to it. And here's a couple of steps to start thinking about that we can try to generate offline word of mouth. And the first one is to think local. Now, for e-commerce businesses, this can be counterintuitive when we can deliver to pretty much anywhere, but it's something that really helps the bricks and mortar. It's something they have in that really kind of is strong from how they gain traction, and that's because the way influence works, we've established that people trust those around them. Most of our influence comes from our local groups, be that from, where we work, um, schools, colleges, gyms, the pub, sports clubs, wherever it might be. So actually, by focusing local, you're increasing the chance that someone's heard about your brand from multiple sources, which is really what we're trying to do. And what we can do is we can then use our marketing to amplify that. So be that with targeting our advertising in areas where people have had some form of brand exposure. Events, often people think about attending the big events, but finding events close to people who've had exposure to your brand are much more likely to reinforce that word of mouth. And the same with sponsorship. It doesn't just have to be big sponsorship opportunities. We can really kind of think about local opportunities closer to that brand exposure to really amplify and generate that offline word of mouth. Brand visibility, I think back to the pandemic when there were, branded boxes of wine outside people's houses. Every one of those was brand reinforcing for those particular brands, be them Naked Wine, be that Virgin. So just making sure that if you've got material or packaging going to people's houses, just think about, is your brand represented? All the neighbors, all the community see that branding. And merch is another one. Huel, the kind of the all-in-one meal providing company, they do this really well in that they give out t-shirts. So I don't have to know my friends drink Huel by them telling me. I see it on their t-shirt that I know they've already purchased it. And this is a silly one, but we want to get people talking, right? You don't have to go to the level of Richard Branson and drive tanks down streets, but think about ways to get people in these communities talking about your brand, to reinforce the exposure they've already had, to really fuel, generate, and increase that online word of mouth that's happening. And again, within our marketing, think about intrigue. If there's a level of brand exposure and people are starting to get intrigued about your message, then more likely to ask people questions about, have you seen that? What did you think? We're trying to provoke a conversation. And finally, ask. Go Compare's latest national TV advertising campaign. The call to action at the end of the advert is tell your friends, tell your family. So a brand that's obviously very, very open to how powerful generating word of mouth is. And that was it. I hope you found it interesting. We're Herdify. We help consumer businesses acquire and convert customers by detecting where offline word of mouth is taking place and helping them target their paid media spend towards it to double their returns. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.